This episode is adapted from a clinician-written article on Mentalyc and brought to life in audio for therapists who prefer listening on the go.
I love that. Perfect for my drive home when my brain is just too tired for screens.
Exactly. And this piece was written by Angela M. Doyle, a psychotherapist, and we're really excited to feature her perspective here.
Oh, wonderful. I've come across her workbooks before. They're incredibly practical.
They really are. And since the article comes from Mentalyc, it helps to know it's a clinical intelligence platform designed to make our documentation lives a little more manageable.
A little more manageable is the understatement of the year. You know that feeling, right? It's 9 p.m., you've held so much for your clients all day, and you're just staring at a mountain of notes, feeling like the most important parts of the sessions are fading.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's this weird tension, isn't it? You want to honor the work, to capture the nuances, but the administrative weight of it is just crushing. It feels like you have to choose between being a present clinician and being a good record keeper.
Exactly. You're forced to choose. And that's where I get so, I don't know, frustrated and a little bit hopeless sometimes. Because the documentation is what proves the therapy works, it's what protects us, it's what helps us see the long-term arc of a client's journey. But in the moment, it just feels like this monster that eats up all the time I'd rather use for, thinking, for actual clinical reflection.
Yes, for the deep work. And that's really where this whole conversation around AI technology and behavioral health gets so interesting for me. It's not about robots replacing us, which I think is like the first place our minds go.
Guilty. I definitely have a little HAL 9000 voice in the back of my head sometimes. Skepticism is kind of in our job description, right?
Totally. It's our ethical duty to be skeptical. But the shift in perspective is seeing it as an ally, a tool that handles the administrative grind so we can focus on what only a human can do. Like, think about personalizing treatment plans. We all do it, but we're working with our own experience, our training, and the data we can hold in our own heads.
Right, which is inherently limited. We can't possibly have read every single study or be aware of every emerging trend for every single presentation of, say, social anxiety.
Exactly. So imagine you have a client, let's call him Jack. He's dealing with intense social anxiety, and you're doing great work in session, but the real challenge is that exposure therapy he needs to do between sessions. That's where the rubber meets the road, and it's also where we have the least visibility.
100%. You give them the homework, you cross your fingers, and you hope they were able to push themselves. But you don't know if they tried and it was too hard, or if they avoided it, or if they did it and it went great. You're waiting a whole week to find out.
So this is where it gets cool. There are AI-powered apps now that can guide Jack through that. Using natural language processing, the app can simulate realistic social scenarios, like ordering a coffee or asking a stranger for directions. And it's not static. It adapts. It gradually increases the difficulty based on his real-time progress and his reported anxiety levels.
Okay, that's actually really smart. So it's like a titrated dose of exposure, but automated and responsive. He's not just thrown into the deep end. He has a structured, safe way to practice.
Precisely. And the best part for us, as clinicians, is that we get the data. We can see, okay, Jack practiced 3 scenarios this week. He did great with the first 2, but his heart rate spiked on the third one. Suddenly, our next session isn't a guessing game. It's laser focused. We can say, let's talk about that third scenario. What came up for you?
Wow. That completely changes the texture of the session. You're moving from just gathering information to actively working with real-time, evidence-based insights. It's not just his subjective report, which is valuable, but it's paired with objective data. That's powerful.
It is. And it's not just for anxiety. Think about a client, Jan, who struggles with depression and those relentless negative thought patterns. We do CBT in session, we work on reframing, but that cognitive habit is a 24/7 battle for her. There are tools like the chatbot, Wobot, that can engage her throughout the week.
I've heard of that one. My understanding is that it's, well, a chatbot.
Does it actually feel helpful or does it feel gimmicky?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's not a replacement for therapy, not even close. But think of it as a thinking partner. When Jan has a thought like, I'm a complete failure, the bot can gently prompt her with a reframing exercise right in that moment. Is there another way to look at this? What's a smaller, more compassionate thought? It's like a little CBT coach in her pocket.
So it's reinforcing the skills we're building in session. And I imagine the mood tracking component gives you, the therapist, a much clearer picture of her week than just asking, so, how have things been since I last saw you?
It's night and day. Instead of that vague, often inaccurate summary, you have a graph. You can see the dips and the peaks. You can correlate them. I see Tuesday was a really tough day. What was happening on Tuesday? It transforms the therapeutic dialogue. It's all about making our interventions more precise and personalized.
And it's not just about mood or anxiety. I'm thinking about biomarkers. So many of my clients wear fitness trackers or smartwatches. They have all this data, sleep patterns, heart rate variability, activity levels, but they don't know what to do with it. And honestly, neither do I. Most of the time it feels like noise.
But it doesn't have to be. That's where AI can be a translator. It can analyze those physiological markers and spot patterns that are linked to mental health. For example, a consistent drop in heart rate variability, or HRV, can be a leading indicator of increased stress or a depressive episode. An AI tool could flag that for you and the client, not as a diagnosis, but as a, hey, let's pay attention to this.
Okay, now that is a game changer. Because that moves us into a proactive, preventative space. We're not just responding to a crisis after it's happened, we're seeing the early warning signs. I'm thinking of a client like, let's call him Davis, someone with a history of suicidal ideation.
Yes, the work that keeps us up at night.
Completely. And with a client like Davis, you're always listening, always assessing, but you can't be with him 24/7. The idea that a crisis app could use AI to recognize high-risk language in his private journal entries and send an alert? I mean, that's not just helpful. That's potentially life-saving.
It is, and it has been. This isn't theoretical. This is happening. The technology is there to create these early warning systems. It empowers the therapist to act before a situation escalates, and it empowers the client. It gives them a safety net that extends beyond the 50-minute hour.
That word, empowerment, feels really key here. It's democratizing the process. It's making the client an active participant in managing their own well-being, not just a passive recipient of care. They have access to their own data, their own patterns. That insight alone is therapeutic.
Absolutely. And it extends to so many different presentations. Think about a client with ADHD, Barbie. Executive function is a constant struggle. Organization, focus, task initiation, it's exhausting. There are AI-driven tools like Akili Interactive that use gamified exercises and personalized routines to help her build those skills. It makes it engaging, not another chore on her to-do list.
Gutzels, anything to avoid the shoulds. I have so many clients with ADHD who are just buried under a pile of I should be more organized. If you can make it a game, something that provides dopamine instead of demanding it, you're working with the ADHD brain, not against it.
You're speaking its language, and it's not just for the individual client. Think about family systems. We have a client, Donna, who's managing PTSD. A huge part of her recovery is helping her family understand what she's going through. But finding the right psychoeducational resources can be tough. They can be generic or overly clinical.
Or just overwhelming. You hand them a stack of printouts and their eyes glaze over. They're already stressed and worried, and now they have homework.
Right? So imagine AI generating a customized guide for Donna's family, a guide that explains PTSD in the context of her specific symptoms and experiences. It could offer concrete, practical tips on how to support her, how to recognize her triggers, and how to communicate effectively when she's activated. It's psychoeducation, but it's personal. It's relevant.
That's incredible. It's like having a brilliant, infinitely patient TA who can create bespoke materials for every single client's support system. The time that would save, but more importantly, the impact that would have on the whole family system. It could lower the temperature in the home, increase empathy. That's huge.
It is huge. But all of this, all these amazing clinical applications, they all hinge on one thing: the therapist having the time and energy to integrate them. And that brings us right back to that mountain of paperwork we were talking about.
The mountain. It's the ultimate barrier, isn't it? You can have the most brilliant ideas, the most innovative tools, but if you're spending 10, 12 hours a week just writing notes and treatment plans, you have no capacity left for innovation.
You're just trying to survive. And this is, for me, the most immediate and revolutionary application of AI. It's the administrative stuff. The documentation burden is one of the biggest drivers of burnout in our field. It's soul-crushing.
It truly is. I've had days where I spent more time writing about the therapy than I spent doing the therapy. And it feels so backward. The note is supposed to serve the work, not the other way around.
Quick pose. If this part of the work feels familiar, Mentalyc can help. Its AI note-taker supports your documentation and clinical judgment while staying fully HIPAA and SOC 2 compliant. You can explore it at Mentalyc.com.
Okay, so let's talk about that. The AI note taker. I've been hearing more and more about this. How does it actually work? It's not listening to my sessions, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's the first and most important ethical line. Platforms like Mentalyc don't store any recordings. The audio is processed and immediately deleted. It uses natural language processing to transcribe and then summarize the session into a progress note draft. It pulls out the key themes, the interventions, the client's responses.
So it's not just a transcript. It's creating a structured clinical summary, like a DAP note or a SOAP note.
Exactly. It generates a draft in whatever format you prefer. And it's not the final note. It's a draft. You, the clinician, are still in complete control. You review it, you edit it, you add your clinical insights and nuances. But instead of starting with a blank page, you're starting with a draft that's maybe 80 or 90% done. The time it saves is staggering.
I'm just trying to imagine my life with that. Finishing my day and having drafts of all my notes just waiting for my review. The amount of brain space that would free up. The evenings I would get back. It feels like a fantasy.
It's real. And then there's a new feature that's it's so simple but so brilliant. You can transfer your finished note to your HER with a single click. No more copy-pasting.
Are you serious? No more copy-pasting? Do you know how many times I've had to reformat a note because the EHR messes it all up or I forget a section? That alone, that's a gift.
It's the little things, right? But they add up. It's not just notes, either. It's automating appointment booking, sending reminders, rescheduling, all the little administrative tasks that nibble away at our day. It's even streamlining the billing and insurance claims process, minimizing errors and delays.
The insurance piece is a whole other beast. The complexity, the endless codes, the denials, it's a full-time job in itself. Anything that can bring accuracy and efficiency to that process is a lifesaver for private practitioners.
It's all about reducing the friction, reducing the burnout. By integrating tools like Mentalyc and other platforms, we're not just becoming more efficient, we're preserving our own longevity in a field that has a really high rate of burnout. We're freeing ourselves up to do the work we were actually trained to do.
Which is to provide care. And that brings up another huge piece of this, accessibility. So many people who need care can't get it. They face obstacles, location, costs, stigma, provider availability.
And AI is tackling that head-on. Virtual therapy platforms, enhanced by AI, are bringing high-quality care to people in remote or underserved areas. They can access a therapist from their own home on their own time. That removes a massive logistical hurdle.
That's true. The rise of telehealth has been a paradigm shift. But what about the people who can't afford even telehealth, or for whom the wait lists are months long?
That's where you see the rise of those AI chatbots and self-help apps we mentioned, like Wobot or Wiza. They can offer immediate, free, or low-cost support. Again, it's not a replacement for therapy with a licensed professional, but it's a bridge. It's immediate assistance. It's a first line of defense for someone who is struggling right now.
It's a better-than-nothing solution. And sometimes better than nothing is a really, really big deal. It's harm reduction. It's giving people tools and a place to be heard, even if it's by an algorithm when no human is available.
Exactly. And think about language barriers. AI-powered language processing can translate therapeutic content or even facilitate sessions in multiple languages. Suddenly, care becomes more inclusive for non-native speakers. It's all part of this movement of democratizing mental health care, removing the gatekeepers and the hurdles.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm seeing the power. I'm seeing how it can make me a more effective, efficient, and data-informed clinician. But there's a but in my mind. What about the human connection? What about empathy, intuition, the therapeutic alliance? That's the magic. That's the engine of change. Can an algorithm ever replicate that? Can it even support it? Or does it get in the way?
That is the most important question. And the answer is an unequivocal no. AI cannot and should not ever replace the human connection. Empathy, intuition, the felt sense in the room, the bond between two humans, that is and always will be irreplaceable. That's the heart of psychotherapy.
Okay, good. Because that's my fear, that in our rush to embrace efficiency and data, we pathologize the human element or deem it inefficient.
I think the healthy way to see it is that AI is a partner that frees us to focus more on those deeply human aspects. When you're not mentally drained from administrative tasks, you have more emotional and cognitive resources available for attunement, for empathy, for being truly present with your client. And there are even tools that can help us reflect on that alliance.
How so? How can a tool reflect on a human relationship?
Well, for example, there's a feature in Mentalyc called Alliance Genie, and it's not analyzing the client. It's designed to help us, the therapist, reflect on our own work. It can analyze the transcript of a session, again without storing any audio, and provide insights into the therapeutic alliance. It might notice things like, you spoke for 70% of the session, or the client used a lot of should statements and the conversation shifted.
Whoa. So it's like a supervisor, but one that's just holding up a mirror to the raw data of the session. It's surfacing our blind spots.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a mirror. It's not judging. It's not interpreting. It's just reflecting patterns. It helps us ask better questions of ourselves. Why did I talk so much in that session? Was I feeling anxious? Was I trying to fix something? It deepens our own self-reflection, which in turn strengthens the therapeutic alliance.
I really like that because it keeps the clinician's judgment and intuition at the center of the process. The technology is serving our reflection, not replacing it. It's a tool for curiosity, and that feels ethically aligned and clinically useful.
Exactly. The future of behavioral health isn't about replacing therapists with machines. It never was. It's about empowering therapists with technology to serve their clients better. It's about using these tools thoughtfully, ethically, and always in service of that sacred human connection.
You've moved me from a skeptic to, well, a hopeful realist. The potential is undeniable. As long as we stay in the driver's seat, grounding everything in our clinical wisdom and our humanity.
And that's the perfect takeaway, I think. A practical first step isn't to overhaul your entire practice overnight. It's to get curious. Maybe try out one small thing. See what it feels like to use a tool to draft one progress note. See if it frees up 20 minutes of your day. Start small and see how it feels.
That feels manageable. Not as a mandate, but as an experiment. An experiment in getting a little bit of our time and our energy back. I think we all deserve that.
We really do. And if you want support with that documentation piece, Mentalyc's AI Note Taker can give you back those hours, freeing you up to focus on your clients and your own reflection.